I'd like to welcome our special guest presenters for today, Include NYC family educator, Mary Beth Berggren, and special guest Christina Silva-Soto, intake outreach specialist at Tri-County Care. Mary Beth, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Rich. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Beth Berggren, and I am a school-age family educator at Include NYC. I'm a native Staten Islander with over 10 years experience in higher education, and I'm an avid member of the special needs community here on Staten Island. I have 2 children, one preschooler and one in elementary school, both with IEPs, and Include NYC is a lifeline for families like mine. I'm joined today by my fellow community partner and special needs mama, Christina Silva-Soto, and together we'll explore the whole child approach, which is critical for long-term success. We'll be discussing strategies for support, both educationally and socially, for children on Staten Island. The whole child approach fosters all areas of a child's development and learning, from social, emotional, and cognitive skills to literacy, math, and even science understanding, and offers a powerful, supportive approach, ensuring that children are excited and engaged and lifelong learners. Lastly, shortly after the conclusion of this webinar, we'll be announcing the winners of our Lunch and Learn raffle. So attendees will be entered for a chance to receive $15 Grubhub gift card immediately after this presentation to enjoy lunch on us. So make sure you check your emails around 2 p.m. for that announcement. I know that Rich spoke briefly about Include NYC, but before we begin, I wanted to share a little about Include NYC and my journey as a special needs mom that brought me to this amazing resource for information. As Rich mentioned, we are a nonprofit organization dedicated to love, equity, and access for young people with disabilities. We're the leading organization in New York City, providing no-cost trainings, supports, and resources for youth with disabilities, families, and professionals across all 5 boroughs. As you may know, Staten Island has a deep-rooted history of disability rights and movements in New York, and is the home of the College of Staten Island, which is one of the nation's most disability-friendly colleges. Include NYC is here to offer high quality trainings, supports, and resources, and to be a model for parent advocacy and family engagement. We offer free trainings, workshops, and webinars, resources and tip sheets around special education and parent support, and our helpline, which we have many Spanish-speaking staff and can connect to interpreters in over 200 languages. The brochures for Include NYC and the information on our helpline, as well as our digital resource sheet, was emailed to you after registering for this webinar. If you did not receive those, information will be in the chat for you. So today we're going to go over, in my section, some frequently asked questions that parents have about special education services in New York. When children are struggling in school, it's important to find out why. And it may be that a disability is affecting your child's educational performance. So if your child is eligible for special education and related services, they may help support their needs. So today I'm going to review these 5 frequently asked questions that will help you learn, and so that you and the school can work together to support your child. If you have questions while I go through the material, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat for questions. We will take questions throughout, and we will save some time at the end for your questions.
Mary Beth, excuse me.
Sure.
If you could just speak a little slower for interpretation, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. The first question that I'm going to address: what is special education? Special education is instruction that is specifically designed to meet the unique needs of children with disabilities. Special education and related services are provided at no cost to the parent and can include special instruction in the classroom, at home, in hospitals, institutions, or any other settings. The definition of special education comes from IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disability Education Act. This law gives eligible children with disabilities the right to receive special education services and assistance in school. Every child, regardless of their disability, is entitled to a free and appropriate public education, which I'm sure you've heard FAPE used before, in the least restrictive environment, or LRE. So what does this really mean? What is LRE? Well, this means that your child should be with kids in a general education setting to the maximum extent that is appropriate. Special classes, separate schools, or removal from the general education class should only happen when your child's learning or thinking difference or disability under IDEA impedes upon their learning and supplementary aids and services in the general classroom, and that can't be provided with an appropriate education. A key word here is appropriate. It refers to what's suitable or right for your child. That is going to change dependent on the child. It's always individualized. So it's what's appropriate for your individual child. Sometimes putting a child in a general education classroom isn't suitable because a specific service or program can't be provided there. But that's okay. There are a plethora of options available for your child to support their needs. The second question is, a 504 plan or an IEP, which is right for my child? I've heard this question numerous times, and the confusion between what a 504 plan is in difference to what an IEP is. A 504 plan provides accommodations in the general education setting and is authorized by Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It is a yearly school-specific accommodation plan created between a family and a school for a student with a diagnosed disability. It's appropriate when a student requires accommodations based on a doctor's diagnosis. So any student with the diagnosis of an impairment that limits their ability to participate in life activities like learning, hearing, seeing, communicating is eligible for the disability that can be temporary or permanent. So examples would be health, mobility, physical conditions, allergies, asthma, diabetes, visual impairments. Examples of 504 accommodations could be a separate location for testing, use of a computer for class notes or classwork, maybe preferred seating in a class, or body breaks for focus, breaks for food, or breaks for medication. A 504 form must be renewed yearly with the school team for accommodations to continue. An individualized education program, or an IEP, is authorized by the IDEA, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act. It mandates special education services, instruction programs, related services like OT, counseling, or PT, and accommodations for an eligible student. Services may be provided in any setting. It's appropriate when a student with a disability requires special education services, programs, and accommodations. For school-age students, any student who meets the criteria of the 13 classifications of educational disability set by federal law is eligible for an IEP. So some examples include autism, speech and language impairment, learning disability, and those classifications will be shared in the chat for you. When you have a preschool child with a disability, there are no classifications as of yet. They would just have the IEP would state preschooler with a disability. All accommodations that can be on a 504 can also be on an IEP. The IEP will include information on the student's present levels of performance, annual goals and benchmarks, appropriate special education programs and services per the continuum of special education. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. You'll have an annual IEP meeting, but you can request a meeting at any time to review your IEP or make any changes necessary. Changes cannot be made to an IEP without informing parents and providing them with the opportunity to participate. Question number 3, what information is in my child's IEP? I know it can be overwhelming to see that document. It has a lot of information in it. It's pages long, and sometimes we might not take the time to go over what the IEP is really telling us. So the IEP is a written document that describes the educational program designed to meet a child's individual needs. Every child who receives special education must have an IEP. The IEP has 2 general purposes: to state the learning goals for your child and to state the supports and services that the school district will provide to your child. Your child's IEP will contain the following statements. Number 1, the PLOP, or the present levels of performance. In this section, there will be details about your child, how your child learns. You'll find current information about how your child is learning and progressing, their strengths and their weaknesses. If he or she is not yet in school, this area will discuss details from their evaluations. This area will also include your child's social development, physical development, and management needs. Measurable annual goals. The IEP must state annual goals for your child. What you and the school team think he or she can reasonably accomplish in a year. This is what your child needs to work for or towards. These goals should be SMART goals. They need to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant or realistic, and timely. An example of an annual goal would be, within 1 year, Joe will use words, phrases, and sentences to convey meaning and messages to others. It will be measured over 8 to 10 trials by teacher observation and checklists monthly. This goal will then have short-term objectives below it on the IEP that will provide more detail. Like in 3 months, Joe will use nouns, verbs, pronouns, prepositions, and adjectives with 80% accuracy. These goals should be very detailed, very specific, so that you can measure the progress your child is making. Special education programs and related services will also be included on the IEP. The IEP will state any special education and related services to be provided to your child. This includes supplementary aids and services, like example, preferential seating, a communication device, a one-to-one tutor that can increase your child's access to learning, and his or her participation in school activities. It also includes changes to the program or supports for school personnel that will be provided to your child. This section will also reflect the extended school year. It will reflect whether your child attends school 10 months or 12 months. The IEP will state when the special education or related service and supplementary aids will begin, how often they'll be provided, and where they will be provided, as well as how long they will be provided for. Also included in the IEP are accommodations or modifications. An accommodation changes how the child will learn or interact with a lesson or a task. A modification changes what your child is expected to learn. So an accommodation example would be learning letters and sounds of the alphabet. Perhaps the class is moving on to verbally identifying the letters of the alphabet. However, if Joe is nonverbal, then the accommodation would be for Joe to point to identify the letters in the alphabet. We're still expecting Joe to learn the sounds of the alphabet, but how he is expected to interact with the task has been changed to meet his needs, to meet where he is at that current moment. That would be an example of an accommodation. When we talk about modifications, say Joe just learned how to walk and is now developing his comfortability of walking around anywhere. Joe and his class go to PE, where they are doing an activity that requires jumping. Joe's modification would be for him to learn how to hop first before he can learn to jump. There are in place not limiting Joe, but meeting him at his level so that they can help strengthen the skills and move from there. That would be a modification. Participation with children without disabilities is also a section on the IEP. The IEP must include an explanation that answers this question. How much of the school day will your child be educated separately from children without disabilities, or not participate in extracurricular or other non-academic activities such as lunch or clubs? Another section in the IEP is participation in state and district-wide assessments. In order to participate in state and district tests, your child may need individual accommodations or changes in how the tests are administered. The IEP team must decide what accommodations your child needs and list them in the IEP. If your child will not be taking these tests, the IEP must include a statement as to why the tests are not appropriate for your child, or how your child will be tested instead, and why the alternate assessment selected is appropriate for your child. Also included in the IEP by the time your child is 15 or younger, if the IEP team finds it appropriate, would be transition services. Another component would be measuring progress. The IEP must state how the school personnel will measure your child's progress towards their annual goals. It must also state when it will give you periodic reports or progress notes on your child. If you'd like to learn more about the components of the IEP, we'll be sharing a link in the chat. Another question that we get as often in regards to the IEP is, can my child's IEP be changed? And the answer is yes, your IEP can change. It's a living, breathing document. At least once a year, you'll have a meeting that must be scheduled to review your child's progress and development, your child's new annual IEP, but you don't have to wait for that annual review. You or any other member from the team may ask to have your child's IEP reviewed or revised at any time. Question number 4, what related services are available for my child? Related services can help your child with a disability benefit from their special education by providing extra help and support in needed areas, such as speaking or moving. Your child's IEP may recommend related services in the classroom, where related services providers can work with teachers, paraprofessionals, and other adults to support the students. Or your child's IEP may recommend related services in other locations in the school. Your child's IEP may recommend related services one-on-one or in small group. Related services can include things like assistive technology services, counseling, hearing education services, occupational therapy, orientation and mobility services, physical therapy, school nurse services, sign language interpreter, speech and language therapy, vision education services. There are a plethora of services that can help. There are also supplementary aids and services available. Supplementary aids and services can play a pivotal role in supporting the education of your child and their participation in a range of other school activities. Examples include supports to address your child's environmental needs, like preferential seating, levels of staff support needed, crisis or health paraprofessionals, full-time or part-time. Specialized equipment needs, like a communication device. Pacing of instruction, like breaks or extended time. How subject matter is presented, sign language, audiovisual supports. Assignment modifications, like shorter assignments or taped lessons or instruction breaks. Deciding which supplementary aids and services, if any, will support your child is really important. None may be needed or many may be needed. All are intended to enable your child to be educated with children without disabilities to the maximum extent appropriate. Depending on the needs of your child, the IEP team must also discuss special factors like your child's behavior, if that's interfering with his or her learning. The IEP team will talk about strategies and supports to address this. If your child has limited proficiency in English, the IEP team will talk about your child's language needs. If your child is blind or visually impaired, the IEP team should provide instruction in Braille or the use of Braille. If your child has a communication needs, the IEP team can consider those needs and speak to you about assistive technology. And our last question, what if I disagree with the school about what is right for my child? Remember, you always have the right to disagree. You always have the right to not agree with the school's decisions concerning your child. This includes decisions about evaluation recommendations, education placement, class setting, special education or related services being provided. And anytime you feel you're in disagreement with the school, it's crucial for both sides to discuss the concerns and reach a consensus. Decisions can be temporary. There's a lot to know about each of these vehicles for resolving disputes like mediation, due process, or filing a complaint. And if you have specific questions regarding your child, please call our helpline. Always remember that you and the school will be making decisions together about your child's educational plan for as long as your child goes to that school and continues to be eligible for special education services. A good working relationship with school staff is so important. We are a community and we succeed together. So we will only achieve success by supporting each other. Teamwork generates progress, and progress defines achievement for us and our families. I'll now pass this along to Christina to discuss community supports available for your children.
Excuse me, we just have a question that I think might be helpful to be answered live.
Sure.
So we have one, any suggestions on how to get ready for IEP meetings at the present moment, which are virtual? As I remember from workshops in the past, it is recommended to be present.
Absolutely. Virtual IEP meetings are happening right now due to COVID, and it's really important for you before these IEP meetings to make sure that you're prepared. So you want to go back and you want to read that IEP. You want to read the goals and the progress notes that you've received from the therapists and the teachers. If you have not received progress notes, or if you don't have a current copy of your child's IEP, please contact your IEP team, the teachers, the therapists, to get copies of those observation reports, the IEP, the annual goals, the progress notes. You want to make sure you're reviewing all of those documents before you meet. I also suggest making a list of questions in advance. So as you go through that paperwork, make sure that you understand the goals that are represented for your child, the services they're currently receiving, and how much progress they're making with those services. And write down any questions that you may have. You can also request to have a parent member with you for your IEP meeting. That request has to be in 72 hours prior to your IEP meeting, but they're still offering that virtually as well. So if you feel like you need some additional support at your IEP meeting, please make sure you request a parent member.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. That's all we have for now.
Thank you.
Thank
Christina.
you, Mary Beth. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me here today to discuss some additional services for our families. I'm going to talk a little bit about OPWDD and care management. The Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, is a state agency that provides services to people of all ages with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Many children with IEP classifications of intellectual disability, ID, multiple disabilities, MD, or autism qualify for OPWDD service. The Office for People with Developmental Disabilities provides high-quality, person-centered services, supports, and advocacy to individuals with developmental disabilities and their families. OPWDD works with a network of nearly 800 non-for-profit providers to help people with developmental disabilities lead richer lives that include meaningful relationships, good health, personal growth, and productivity and homes in their communities. OPWDD's goal is to help people with developmental disabilities achieve their personal best and attain the highest level of independence through individualized service programs. So what I'm going to discuss today is the enrollment process. I'm giving a brief overview, but anyone that would like to know more in detail can contact me. Thank you. So step 1 for intake or enrollment. To enroll with Tri-County Care and be assigned a care manager, you must have 4 items in place: OPWDD eligibility, level of care eligibility determination, which is an LCED or an LOC, which is given at the time of determination, active and appropriate Medicaid. So some families already have Medicaid when they come into this process, so we don't have to go through the process of applying for it. However, we do a conversion in most cases. What I do want to point out here is that if a family has Medicaid Child Health Plus, you cannot have OPWDD waiver. You can't have both. If the family does not have Medicaid, we actually help to apply for the Medicaid with the family. And then the 4th piece is the completed and signed Tri-County Care application. If you need OPWDD eligibility, we work to gather the necessary documentation to submit to OPWDD for review. So we can help you from the very beginning. The diagnoses that qualify an individual for OPWDD are an intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorders, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, neurological impairments, Prader-Willi syndrome, traumatic brain injury, and familial dysautonomia. Thank you. So none of these are automatically qualifying, though. You still have to meet the criteria where there is a deficit in either the cognitive area or the adaptive area. And then all qualifying conditions for OPWDD have to have been present prior to the age of 22. So some people will ask, well, what does that mean? That means that we would have to see, or OPWDD would have to see an indication that this disability was onset prior to the age of 22 through either medical records, school records, IEPs, etc. The documents that are needed to submit for eligibility include, but are not limited to, because every case is different, a psychological evaluation with IQ testing, an adaptive, or a Vineland. If the individual has ASD or autism, they're going to need a comprehensive assessment for the autism. So either an ADOS or an ADR-1, again, case-by-case basis. A psychosocial report or social history, and then the regular physical evaluation with the diagnosis. And the physical is just the same physical you would present to school on the blank adolescent form if they're under 18. We have an adult form if they're over 18. It must include the vitals and the diagnosis. Now for Staten Island, every DDRO can be a little different in what they require, very little, but on Staten Island, an individual must have those reports not be older than a year old. So the medical, psychosocial, or social history are not negotiable. They must be under a year old. The psychological for a child must be under a year old. If the individual is a little bit older, and when I say a little bit older, maybe late teens, you could have a psychological that might be up to 3 years old. Again, it's a case-by-case basis, what the support documents show. We would be able to look at them and let you know at that point. For any diagnosis, the adaptive score should be below 70 to meet OPWDD eligibility criteria. So once we submit that the documents to OPWDD, we'll get a letter stating a determination of eligibility. Once we have that, the next step is to go into the Medicaid process. Now, at that point, OPWDD may require additional documents, or they might send it to a step 2 review. Again, every case is differently. They would look at what the whole packet states and then make a decision. An individual can apply for OPWDD as many times as they want. It's not that you apply once and then, oh no, I wasn't eligible, I can't apply again. That's not the case, and a lot of families don't know that. Step 2 would be Medicaid. If you do not have the active Medicaid, you will be referred to our benefits and entitlements team to begin working on the Medicaid application. If under 18, the parent's income is waived, however, the child's income is not. And so what that means is, and what we've been seeing a lot lately, and they don't discuss this in the beginning at the front door with OPWDD, that a child can have income, and that comes in the way of child support or a Social Security benefit, whether it's a death benefit or a parent's disability benefit. Those pieces are income for the child. So when we get to that step of Medicaid and the family might say, oh, I get this much in child support, but it's to help to support the child, correct. But the way Medicaid views it is that is their income. So the child is able to have, if they're under 18, up to $879 of this income. After that, it would be a spend down. And so that means that that additional portion would have to be spent down in a way for the child in order for the Medicaid to stay active. But again, these are very specific circumstances, and we could discuss them more one-on-one. If the parent's income is not included in any of this, although it must be presented at the time of the application. So when we're filling out the application, we must present parents' pay stubs and any type of accounts, custodial accounts, and bank accounts. If the child is under 18, there can be no more than $2,000 in an account. However, if it's a custodial account, it doesn't matter. If the individual is 18 or over, they can have up to $15,000 in a private account. And when applying for an individual over 18, if they're from 18 to 25, living at home and still supported by their parents, we also have to submit the parent's income. Although it doesn't count, it still is included in the application. Once Medicaid is approved, we then would go on to care management. And if the individual already has Medicaid, whether it's through Marketplace, people don't realize when they go through the exchange, Obamacare, that is Medicaid, it's a supplemented Medicaid funding stream. We would have to convert that, or we take whatever Medicaid they have and we add the appropriate OPWDD codes. Once that is done, again, we move over to step 3, which is care management. the care manager will work to develop an integrated comprehensive care plan known as a life plan that includes health and behavioral health services, community and social supports, and other services. The care manager will assist with assessing services that support well-rounded and fulfilling lives. The care manager will create a document, execute, and update the individualized person-centered life plan. Through the IM assessment, the individual's wants, goals, and priorities, as well as the medical, mental health, chemical dependency, and social service needs will be assessed and identified. The individual plays a central and active role in the development and execution to their own life plan. The care manager works with the individual to coordinate services, ensure necessary safeguards are in place, identify current needs, and encourage decision-making to promote independent living. So for more information regarding the services the care manager can assist with, they can be found in our service guide by following the link that's here. You can also request a copy to be emailed by emailing intake@tricountycare.org. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Christina. That was awesome. Okay, so we're gonna leave the rest of the time for questions. So if you have questions for Christina or I, please make sure to put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll answer those for you regarding the OPWDD or waiver services or any special education questions.
At the moment, we don't have any questions. I'll let you know if they roll in.
Sounds great. Thanks, Simone. You know, it's a lot of information. Christina, can you speak?
Yes.
Oh, there's a question.
Do you see them, Mary Beth, or do you need me to get it for you?
Yeah, so Christina, someone's asking why we cannot get respite. Oh, when the child is 2 years and 3 months.
Right now, well, actually, it's not that they can't get respite, is that if the child is under 3, they're usually in EI, in early intervention, and that means they already have care coordination. So when COVID happened, and this is pretty new, before we were able to do a baby waiver, and with the baby waiver, we were able to get the Medicaid piece and able to get respite for the family. However, since around COVID time and I guess funding becoming very tight, OPWDD decided that they were no longer doing baby waivers because EI is care coordination and they should be looking to do the respite and get the respite services in place to help the family. Again, it's where it's the funding. So if a child is in EI, let's say, and they already have Medicaid, there are codes on that Medicaid that they are billing for and that care coordination. So you can't be in CCO, OPWDD care coordination. So the child would have to be over the age of 3 and out of EI to do the services with OPWDD. Doesn't mean we can't start. I have individuals that we're in the process, or we take them on at 2 or 3, right before they're going to turn 3, because I time it out so that when they're ready to start, everything is ready for them, the Medicaid, and then we can go right into care management. However, if you do get your eligibility very early, so let's say some people take their EI evals and they go over and they submit themselves and they get eligibility, that's only good for 1 year. And if you don't do something with it, it's done. You have to reapply.
Great. We have a few more. Would you like me to read them out loud?
Yes, please.
Great. So can you repeat the information about healthcare, the Health Plus case, and why a child cannot apply to OPWDD?
Because Child Health Plus is a form of Medicaid. It comes from the same funding stream. And in the services that they provide through Child Health Plus, what a child can get, that's where that funding is going. So for instance, with Child Health Plus, children can get ABA. You cannot get ABA services when you have OPWD, well, through the Medicaid with OPWDD waiver. It's for home and community-based services. So the ABA would be left to the school or through private insurance. But if an individual has Child Health Plus, they can receive ABA, and that's why a lot of people get that insurance.
So along with that, a question that is on that topic, what is the earliest age of a child that can get OPWDD eligibility?
You can get eligibility anytime.
Great. Okay, how can we apply for a child budget at the age of 2 years and 3 months?
You cannot.
Thank you. And then last one is, ABA is a behavioral support, but it's not offered at the school and my insurance does not cover it. If it is included in the life plan, how can we access it?
Well, if it's included in the life plan, that, again, that sounds like something very specific. That person can reach out to me offline, and then I can, I can speak to them one-on-one. That's not really
great.
Something I would be able to answer. That's something that sounds a little specific.
Mm-hmm. And we also have the helpline as well, if anyone has specific questions. A few more have popped in. For ABA, does a child need to be classified autistic?
Yes.
So yes, they're shaking their heads. And the next question, what about documentation for child immigration status in order to apply to OPWDD?
So it's not only applying to OPWDD, you have to be able to apply for Medicaid. So there's two pieces to this. You can have eligibility with OPWDD. You can even apply without a social security number. But when you get to the next step and you need the Medicaid, if you're not documented, you only can receive right now emergency Medicaid, and it cannot be used for waiver. So again, very specific question. I'm happy to speak regarding that specific case outside of this, but generally for eligibility is different than having to meet the criteria for Medicaid, which pays for the waiver services. So, and not that someone who's not documented or is not a citizen can't get Medicaid. It's a different type of Medicaid, not the kind that would pay for the waiver services.
Thank you, Christina. That's it for the moment. I'll let you guys know if anything else pops up.
Christina, can you also speak to the process of self-direction? Because I think a lot of—
Yes.
Okay.
So with self-direction, that is a waiver service. So a lot of times I'll get a call that says, hi, I want to apply for self-direction. And then I have to explain to the family, well, actually, it's a bit of a process in the sense that you have to first get eligibility, then we have to get Medicaid, then we have to get you a care manager, and then they submit your waiver packet, and then you are approved for waiver services. At that point only can you start the process for self-direction, which is a waiver service. Waiver services, ComHab, respite, FSS, family supported services, IDGS, OTPS, all that fun stuff, but self-direction is a waiver service. So at that point, the child has to be over the age of 3 to do self-direction. And what would happen is once you have your waiver in place, you would, and you can research a broker and a fiscal intermediary ahead of time. You take a class, you have to get the certificate. Your care manager would then submit that back to the state to get approval for you to even attempt to do the self-direction. So a lot of families don't realize that when your care manager is submitting your waiver packet, in that packet, they're putting in a request for service, an RSA, a request for service authorization. And that states what kind of services you're looking for from OPWDD. Some boroughs, and let's say even Long Island, upstate, everything is very different the way that they work. So they might not provide you ComHab in Brooklyn right now until you're age 13. That's just how it is. So there are some things that will vary from DDRO to DDRO, but as far as self-direction, you need to make sure that you share with your care manager that you're interested in that. They put in that request for it. You would then get approved. They would say to you, okay, you can go ahead and start the process. You would contact a broker, and the broker would request a bunch of documents from your care manager. They would then go ahead and submit that to the fiscal intermediary. They're going to send that back to the state. The state will then send down the approval to start the self-direction process. Then your broker will sit down with you, go through your budget, what you want to do. Then they have to submit that back to the state to get your final budget approval. So currently that process could take probably about, let's say, depending, and again, it depends where it is. Right now it can average anywhere from 2 to 6 months, depending on the type of broker you have, how seasoned they are, how busy the FI is, and how many packets are sitting in Albany to be approved.
Okay, should I understand that child without documentation can be eligible for OPWDD, but for support services only?
No, cannot get, you can, eligibility is not services. The only thing a person could get with eligibility is they would have the opportunity to apply for the family support service, a reimbursement of up to $500 per their calendar year. But no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, eligibility doesn't mean you're getting services. You don't get services until you're waiver approved. But again, happy to discuss that with the individual and see exactly what is happening.
Also, Christina, just for clarification, the difference between staying standard Medicaid waiver or going the route of self-direction, can you just kind of give a compare contrast as to why a parent might want self-direction?
Oh, traditional, well, it's the same thing. So it's traditional services versus, well, traditional services, you don't have as much opportunity. So with self-direction, with that budget that you get, you're able to, if there is a provider, let's say you want to go to play soccer, your individual wants to play soccer, and maybe that provider doesn't take self-direction as a direct payment. Well, you could pay out of pocket and get reimbursed as long as it's a community class, has their price list listed publicly. It just gives you more flexibility. There's reimbursements for mileage. There's reimbursements for family respite. You can hire your own staff with self-direction, your hab and respite staff. So by doing that, you're cutting out the middleman of that direct service provider, which takes a piece of that, and you're able to put it into invested into your staff. You know, for me, and I'll speak for myself, you know, quality staff is important to me, and keeping staff, retaining them is important. So I pay my staff well because I want them to stay with me, and I think that makes a big difference. But when another agency is involved, they have overhead and they have costs, and they have to take their portion for that, which is understandable. So self-direction just gives you more opportunity, but you can have both. You can have traditional and self-direction. It just will be included in the budget. I'd say always start with traditional services off the bat, because you're waiver approved for traditional services right away, not the self-direction. So you can start traditional services and then, you know, transfer out or keep both, or whatever works best for the individual. The broker can always advise on that.
Thank you. As you know, I also chose
Yes.
self-direction for both my children, and I agree with you. We have a lot of programs here on Staten Island that you can take advantage of who do accept self-direction. And that's really important. I know we're kind of Staten Island specific here in this forum. So there are programs available, music programs, art programs, personal fitness programs, swim lessons, horseback riding,
Yoga,
yes, yoga. So many extracurricular activities, cheerleading, tumbling, gymnastics, available to you, both that may accept the self-direction or that you can be reimbursed for. So I think that there's just a lot here that parents may not realize, oh, my budget can cover that.
Yeah, well, and here's the big thing, that we have such a great community here on Staten Island that a lot of these providers are coming and accepting self-direction as a payment, which is amazing because a lot of families don't have the extra money to shell out and then wait to get reimbursed a month later. So kudos to these providers and businesses that really are out there helping these families, because it's making a real difference in their lives. I mean, COVID has really just altered everybody's home life. Everything is upside down. But the one thing that I will say that can stay constant is, okay, so my son is going to be at this class every week and whatever it is. And, you know, he's on his yoga, even though it's virtual, you know, he's there every Sunday at 9 o'clock, and that's his thing. And so it keeps a little bit of this normalcy going. And I must say, you know, Staten Island, not just because I live here, but Staten Island is the best borough with these services and with these providers. I got to tell you, we have people coming from Brooklyn. I deal with families all up down the state, Long Island, and Staten Island really has it going on, I got to tell you.
We had a question pop up. It was mentioned that for Medicaid application, the income of a parent is needed. What about the case that a child is documented, but parents are not, and they do not have such paperwork?
Again, a very specific case. I have had that. They would have to speak to me, or we would have to, case by case.
Great, thank you.
And if anyone has any specifics about programs on Staten Island that they're looking for or they're interested in for their child, please ask, because as Christina mentioned, Christina and I are both very familiar with a lot of the programs that are available here on the island, both through insurance, through waiver services, through just out of pocket.
Well, also, there are non-Medicaid waiver services. So there are services here on Staten Island that you can get without Medicaid and without, you know, due to financial reasons, whatever it is, without waiver. So there's some individuals who do not qualify for waiver, but there are non-Medicaid waiver services.
Someone's asking what those are.
AHRC, Jewish Board. Again, it's going to be specific to what your needs are, but I know AHRC has a great intake department for non-Medicaid waiver services, and I'd be happy to, I'll type in her information in the box.
I know Grace Foundation offers
Yes,
programs that are non-Medicaid waiver also. Specific.
Also, Rich had dropped in the chat that we'll be having our virtual fair, Include Fair, on January 30th. The link is there as well, and that will provide information about some local resources as well.
Yes, and get on that, because this summer will be here before you know it, and you will want to take advantage of those programs and activities that are available for your kids, summer camps, after school activities. I know a lot of our community organizations will be hopping on to speak to you about those offerings. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Rich, for the support, and Christina for joining me here to discuss all the valuable supports and services available for our kids. Please remember, you can contact myself or Christina at any time with questions or concerns. Our contact information is in the chat, and we look forward to hosting you at another webinar soon. Thank you.